since we've done anything on the Allroad. And so obviously, since we're building the Allroad to go off-road as it was intended by Audi, we're gonna be doing a little bit of protection maintenance for off-road. And that's where this big thing comes in. So this is a Thor skid plate designed for the Allroad, and it's gonna replace the plastic factory skid plate that's underneath the car. And I'm gonna show you guys how to install it if you for some reason buy one, or just kind of to go over like what we're gonna be protecting on the Allroad so we can ship this thing off-road in the winter, as it is now, by the time you're seeing this, October in Canada. So we're gonna be coming up on snow pretty soon. And then when we go in the mountains, obviously there is gonna be some snow. So we gotta be able to trek through a little bit of deeper, more unidentifiable hazards in the road. We just wanna be ready for that. We're not really gonna worry about what's going on up here because I'm gonna probably build an intake in another video, but let's get the Allroad in the air, unbolt the factory skid plate, and put the new one on. And good lift etiquette. Give your car a bounce, make sure it's not gonna fall over and kill you. All right, so underneath the Allroad, I'm already missing a piece that covers the transmission, like the front portion of the bell housing. So that normally would span from the end of the first skid plate, which is where essentially the bell housing starts, to the first cross brace where the downpipes would mount to the engine mounts or the transmission mounts. So we're gonna quickly ditch this, and then I'll kind of show you everything that's super exposed on the underside of the C5, and I'm actually gonna change my light position here as well. So my skid plate currently is held in with hopes and dreams, so there's only a couple of bolts that are actually really doing anything, and then this should kind of just fall right out. And then also a bunch of zip ties as per usual Volkswagen spec. Like that. So after, maybe we'll do a quick comparison too of stock versus new. Okay, so this guy right here is obviously the new Thor plate, and this is the original. So they're about the same size. The Thor plate is a little bit longer because it does come back farther, I think. Oh yeah, because they speeding it into there. Anyways, so the Thor plate does come back a little bit farther, and as you can see right here, if it'll focus, on the outsides, they have these little wing things, which are to protect up in the wheel well areas, kind of like up over in yonder. So up in here, this whole area is going to be covered by those wings, and it essentially is basically just a thicker skid plate. It gives you a little bit more coverage and adjustability in terms of a skid plate, and it's pretty simple to install, so we're just gonna kind of go over that. This isn't a brand new plate. It has some trim on the edges, and I'm assuming that was to reduce some rattling, so we might install some of that at some point, but we will if we need to. So let's just jump right into slapping this guy in. It's pretty simple. No rocket science here. And we'll just give her a friggin' whirl. And one more thing I wanted to quickly mention about these is obviously the weight difference. So I don't really know how heavy the Thor plate is, but based off of the fact that I can curl it pretty easily, I'd say this is about 20 pounds for this skid plate. And then the factory one is maybe 7 pounds, maybe close to 10. So the Thor plate is double, but that's kind of what you get for off-road armor anyways. Like if you're putting an off-road bumper on a truck and that kind of thing, like that's nothing compared to that. So anyways, we'll look up here and we'll get some Rivnuts installed because that is step one. You have two hexagonal subframe holes. You have one on this side and then there's one over this general area. Basically you're gonna send this guy up in here. And there you go. She's installed. That little boy right there. Mint. So next is a little bit of a pain in the ass because we have to get the skid plate to kind of sit up in the lower portion of the bumper. We're gonna use a exhaust stand. So we've got it at a point where it's not exactly about to immediately fall on my head, but it could still fall on my head. So just gonna get those bolts in. And these are just M8s that go into these speed nut things or whatever. All right, so that is the skid plate. She's semi-installed. Kind of a bit of a pain in the ass to get the thing lined up, especially with the four main bolts, because the rears were a little bit difficult to get in because they're not exactly like, I don't know if this car has had everything off in the front end before, or like the suspension or the subframe's been moved, but it was just a pain in the ass getting everything lined up. Another note that my pal Iman over here made a good point about is with the wings. So the outer portion right here that bolts in right here is 100% gonna rub because it sticks out a lot farther than the actual fender does and isn't exactly round in the fender well. And obviously this skid plate was designed with stock tire size in mind, and since we're on 29s, it's gonna rub. So I'm either gonna have to basically bend the wings in more or just cut them off completely. I don't really care kind of which one I'm gonna do. I would like to keep the wings just to kind of have that extra edge of protection, but yeah. And the only other complaint I had about the skid plate is the factory one comes all the way back to essentially here. So you have to put the plastic one back in for the transmission. And I'm pretty sure just based off of the way that the transmission is designed, it could take a little bit more of an impact than the engine can, but I would not like to find out what the tensile strength of that case is. So yeah, I'll look into that in another video, but that's pretty much it for the skid plate install. Obviously the next step is gonna be off-roading, and not gonna purposely try and slam this thing into some rocks, but put this thing to good use and see how it does. But anyways guys, from me and Mr. Iman, peace out. I'll see you in the next video.